All right, so next mod install is going to be swapping out this gloss black rear spoiler, which has been on the car now for about 2 years, and it's held up fantastically. This was a eBay purchase, very similar to the original style spoilers that come on the car, but obviously this one I opted for in gloss black, and I also had it ceramic coated in Cristom Serum Ultra at the time when I had the full car detailed. And so just felt like it didn't really give the car the aggression that I wanted from the back. You know, obviously the C43S style diffuser looks fantastic, and I just wanted something a little bit with a bit more punch to it on the spoiler. And so was looking for quite some time, and eventually nailed it down to what I was looking for, which was the Renntech style spoiler. And I could only find them in carbon fiber, and this was only really something I could find on eBay. And so what I did was I bought one and had it painted by my local body shop in a very beautiful gloss black finish. And yeah, we're going to be getting this on the car today, hopefully, provided there's no hiccups. Obviously, you'll be able to see how it looks on the car once I get it all set up. And so I've already got my heat gun ready to go. I'm going to have to carefully pry off the aftermarket spoiler that's currently on the car. And then as soon as I have this off, I'm going to have to clean and prep the panel, possibly do a light polish just to remove anything, you know, any residual adhesive. Then I'll use some panel prep spray, and then we'll go ahead and start staging up the new spoiler. So we'll go through the install together, and yeah, let's get things started. All right, this is the this is the remnants of my removal. As you can see, my original spoiler is now in 3-piece form. It's completely snapped with not much force, but as you can see, it's hollow the whole way through, so it doesn't take too much force to snap it. So no going back now. So, you know, it's interesting actually, is the 3M tape that I'd originally used comes off super easy, just rolling with your fingers, and leaves behind minimal residue. So I don't know how that thing was holding on so tightly. I ended up having to jam this screwdriver actually inside this hollow section here. So slide it inside the spoiler. I can just show you like this to give me something to actually pull on, because I could barely get my fingers under the edge here. And so then I used my heat gun along the closest edge I could and started to gradually purse this upwards, and just did it super carefully, knowing that this has a tendency to snap. I was very careful not to overdo it with the pressure I was using with the pull, because obviously the last thing I wanted to do was to damage this trunk whatsoever and end up having to spend several $100s getting the trunk redone. So yeah, next step now is to remove the 3M adhesive. That's probably about 2 years old now. So remove this. I'm going to get out my 3-inch polishing pad on my random orbital, and I'll just go over this if there's anything that's residual that some grease and wax remover doesn't get rid of, and some Goo Gone perhaps. And then once that's done, we'll stage up the new spoiler, at which point I'll bust out the camera again, and we'll see how we get on. So the wing is now completely removed, and all I'm left with is some of the adhesive that the 3M tape left behind. So I grabbed some Goo Gone. I just dabbed it generously onto the surface, and I'm just letting it sit there for a couple of minutes to break up any traces of adhesive that are on this this corner edge here. You can still see where the adhesive is. So yeah, let's give it about 2 minutes. As soon as it's softened it up, I'll go back over it with a microfiber, wipe it all down to take all of the adhesive off, and then I will then go over it with some detail spray, and then with some panel wipe. I'll probably use some of this G-Technique panel wipe. This is kind of what you would use before you put a coating on, but you can see here, removes the poly residue bonding. So basically this is a great prep for any kind of 3M tape that you may use. And I did do the same technique with that spoiler, and as you can see, I'm pretty good at making them stick. So judging by how hard that one was to come off. So we are super close now to the test fitting stage. I have not test fitted that new spoiler that's over there even before it got painted. I just took a chance. I figured I'll make it work, you know, whatever the fitment is like, whether I need to add some extra 3M tape, you know, to make it sit level. However I'll do it, I'll figure it out. But we're almost at the test fitting stage. So I'll clean this up and then we'll get the spoiler staged up on the trunk for the first time and get a look of the new look at the back. All right, so this is it. Sat in position, test fitting the new spoiler. And I think you'll agree that looks pretty damn good, pretty damn good. I really do like how you can see it slightly sits proud of the trunk there at the edges. It just gives it such an aggressive look. Yep, very pleased. Very pleased with the fitment on it so far. So I really do need to measure it up now. Just kind of get the center line and then obviously line it up with the middle of that Mercedes star just to make sure it's perfect. Probably the easiest way to do it is I'll just I'll measure the distance from the very tip of the spoiler here to the edges of the trunk and just make sure it's equidistant. Then I'll put some masking tape so I have my lines, and then I'll stage the spoiler there, and then I'll yeah, stick it down. So let's go. So the spoiler, I already set it on. I got my corner points for the leading edge here. So I'm going to verify that that exact corner point, you know, going with this kind of suede line on the side here is going to be equidistant on both sides to make sure I have it centered. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a correction, because you can see here when the light catches it, you know, obviously this is not a corrected area of the paint. This car has previously, under my care, had a professional two-step and Cristom Serum Ultra applied by a local shop here in Orange County. So as you can see, the paint on the car is actually super good. This coating and correction is only a year old, and you know, I pride myself on being very good with the washing protocol on the car. So and I also use SiO2 conditioning for the coating on a regular basis to keep it in good shape. But this area that the spoiler was sitting on has obviously never ever been corrected in its life. So just this area here that you can see that's going to be exposed when the spoiler sits down and I have those risers coming up the side, this definitely needs correcting, just so that when the sunlight hits it, I'm not going to have some unsightly marred surface area right here on both sides. So what I've done is I've got my trusty griots. I believe this one is, I'm trying to think of the name of this one. This one is their 3-inch, and I just put the 2-inch backing plate onto it. And then what I'm actually going to use is I'm going to use some of this 3D1 cutting and finishing compound. Works fantastically, paired up with the Oro microfiber cutting pad. This works really well with the 3D1. And then I'll then finish it up with the black foam finishing pad just to refine down, using again the same product, and we should get a nicely, you know, decently corrected surface. It's not going to be, you know, wet sanded perfection, but it's going to certainly look a heck of a lot better than it does now. So we'll check back in a moment. I'll polish it up and we'll see what it looks like. Just measuring up to make sure that this is as central as it can be. I referenced the corner points on the outside of each of the mounting feet, and I then got a strip of masking tape. I lay it across following the line of the trunk edge. I measured that to, you know, basically scrolled it out with some pencils. I then transferred it to this side, following again the trunk line perfectly, and made sure that the distance was accurate, as within a millimeter as much as I could. And then again, nailed it with the corners here so that I know exactly where this has to sit to get it as central as it can be. So I feel like this is as central as it's going to be. I don't think I can get it any more centered than that. So now I'm going to basically lift out the corners of the 3M tape on both the top side and on the bottom side, and just leave a little strip poking out, and then I'll gradually pull them across until all of the top backing piece is removed from the 3M, and I'll then apply constant pressure across the whole rear wing for a minimum of 30 seconds, and then this is going to sit without any water for at least 5 days. I won't get the thing wet, but I certainly won't be touching the spoiler at all for a minimum of 24 hours, just to really let the 3M tape do its thing. So yep, it's hard to get a good look. This angle is a bit awkward because I'm so far backwards into the garage, but once we have some sunlight and I'm able to pull it out, and I can really get some better looks as to how this is going to look on the car. But yep, super excited. I think this is going to look great once we get it outside. All right, so I'll get back with you guys once this is all done and we have some outdoor shots. One thing that I did find with this adhesive on the bottom was I just did a test fit, and well, I tried to actually fit it, and what I noticed was that because the outside of the underneath area here has this ridge, and then the whole kind of underside section where you're supposed to put your 3M tape is kind of sunken down, is the thickness of the 3M tape, which is, you know, just normal molding tape thickness. It doesn't actually sit proud enough of this lip to allow you to you know, make contact with the paintwork. So I've actually had to double up. So this is actually 2 layers of 3M, and this is obviously, you know, the super strength adhesive. So I mean, what, you know, you've got 2 super adhesive surfaces trying to stick to each other. So there's no question this is going to be just fine. It's going to be ridiculously bonded together anyway once this wets itself out and cures within 72 hours. So now I'm going to try for real fitting this up, and hopefully I'll get full contact now that I have that little bit of extra thickness from the spoiler. And again, I'm slightly inside of the edges, so you shouldn't see any of the 3M tape. So let's get it fitted up. So it's been about 48 hours since I installed the spoiler, and I believe it says 72 hours is the full curing time for the 3M tape. It basically needs that time for it to wet out the surfaces that it's in contact with and kind of dry out and give you that full adhesion. So I'll just, you know, go right off the bat here and just say how pleased I am with the huge visual improvement this has made to the back of the car, and how aggressive it looks now from the back. I mean, that's just such a good angle. I absolutely love these little kind of kickouts, these little risers that come out to the side over the rear quarter panels. It just gives it just enough without being too much. The fitment on the spoiler is definitely as good as you're going to get for an aftermarket part. There is no daylight visible around the joining edges. It finishes nice and tight across the whole length of the spoiler. There is no kind of bananaing. It's not in any way sitting up at the corners, which I've had before with some spoilers. You know, some of them you can have the issue where they're not 100% straight, so the corners kind of don't sit flush. I do not have that problem with this spoiler. This thing is bullet straight the whole way across. The paint finish out in the sunlight looks fantastic. Very pleased with it. Obviously, this is a carbon fiber part that's been painted, so it's never going to be as smooth as a painted body panel. It's always going to have a little bit of waviness to it because of the material, but overall the paint finish looks fantastic. Super pleased with it. So I'll give you a couple more angles here. Not too many cars running this spoiler. I've seen a lot of C classes that have been, you know, modified with different diffusers and wheels and such. I'm yet to see anybody that is running this spoiler. Certainly in and around my area. So it's nice to have something a little bit different that you don't see. Oh my goodness, that's such a good look from the back of the car. So there we go, that wraps up the install video of my Renntech style rear spoiler. I'd like to think this is definitely a really good upgrade for the car. It's made a big visual difference. I'm super pleased with the outcome. And we'll move on to other things. I have more parts planned for the future. And hopefully we'll continue to make some nice progress on the car, continue to upgrade it, continue to improve its aesthetics. I have some parts installed on the car that I haven't even videoed before. Full Armitrix Valvetronic exhaust system. And the keen-eyed of you will notice that these are not the same wheels that were on the car on the previous video. These are actually some custom-made VS forged wheels, which I'll make a separate video on. These have only been on the car for about a week, so I haven't quite made a video on these yet, but I will. Just wanted to focus on the rear spoiler install for this video. So thank you again for watching, and I will be sending out some more videos hopefully in the very near future.
Daylight is laid to rest beneath all the rubble, and all that runs through my flesh is a speed.